Welcome back to another first impression, this time for the anime Clevatess. Synopsis from my anime list is the following. Alicia, who had dreamed of becoming a hero since childhood, is chosen by the king as one of the 13 heroes. Armed with a legendary sword, the heroes set out to defeat the demon king Clevatess. However, their recklessness triggers a terrible crisis that could wipe out all of humanity on the continent of Etsia. Now the world's only hope lies with the baby entrusted to the demon king. Now this one, I had no idea. I don't really do research before watching these videos. I don't watch the trailers because, I just want to go in as blind as possible and get possibly surprised, which this one definitely did somewhat. Now, as the synopsis is, alluding to, so we have Alicia, which is the POV of the first episode, and she is crowned as one of the heroes, and 13 of these heroes, each armed with a legendary sword, not only one, each has a legendary weapon, and they are sent out to defeat the demon king Clevatess. Why? Now, the story does give us some information. There is this continent called Etsia, which has like 5 races on it. And no one knows what is, outside of this continent, because around that continent is like a black area. This area is, there is some kind of, not different race, but there are some monsters in that black area, and one of the kings of these monsters is the demon king Clevatess. He's to the south. Now there are supposedly 4 of these beings outside of the continent of Etsia, which means as long as they are there, we cannot, or the humans on this continent cannot really scout further what is behind this dark area, which is, house to all these demonic creatures. So that is why we send out these 13 heroes to defeat Clevatess. Okay, so far so good. Now we also get to know about those 5 races a little bit. We have like a human race, which is like living on a plains. They have like 2 kingdoms. They more or less split up, and all the races seemingly are, on a specific biome. They are not, they're pretty bog standard. You have like an orc elf mix as a, not orc, ogre elf mix as a race. They are in like a wooden area. You have like an aquatic race, which is like around a couple islands. They don't like to really interact with any other races, supposedly. You have like a race that is on the wastelands, and around there they are very strong, but they are not really, connected with one another. They are not really one big kingdom, but a bunch of smaller tribes or groups. And then you have like a race that is inside of a mountain or around a mountain, something along the lines of dwarves. However, they do look a little bit more elfish or elven than dwarven. So, you have those 5 different races that mostly are connected to like a biome, forest, plain, wasteland, water, or island, and the mountains. Now, this is already, this part is the part I do like a lot. There's a lot of lore. There seems to be a lot of interconnection between the races that seem to be important for the story. And then outside of these races, outside of this continent, we have like unknown areas that are housed to some demonic creatures, and those are protected by these 4 kings or 4 demon kings, one of them Clevatess, as far as I understood. Now, outside of that, audio, I mean, going through all the different categories, audio is good. I mean, VA is good, sound is good, sound design is good, music is good. I mean, I rarely have any problems with audio in Japanese animation, so everything good. Animation is good, very solid. The fights, we do have fights, look really good. The art style is very fitting. This is the story seems to be more grim, a lot more dark than normal. Similar to, I don't want to make the comparison, but maybe similar to like Übelblood in that it's darker, it's more grim, it's not a happy-go-lucky world, it's not gonna be friendship that is going to rescue us and stuff. No, it is more grim, more dark, more realistic. Art style fits that perfectly. Characters, I mean, it's like 2 episodes, we only have like 2 characters really that we are involved with. I do have my problems with those a little bit. We will go into that a little bit more in the spoiler section, especially also with the story, because the last part, the world's only hope lies with a baby. So, you know, stuff happens. So my anime list gave it a 7.84. Any list, we have it at 75%. I would say it is a solid 8 out of 10. It has potential to be a really interesting story. It could also fall down flat. I feel like Übelblood more or less scarred me in that regard, because that one also had a chance to be interesting and good. It did not deliver on that. So, you know, however, I'm going to give this one a chance. It seems interesting. Where it is going is very interesting after the end of the 2nd episode. There are some, you know, interesting parts that could be in this story. It does seem more interconnected with the races. We will see. So let's go into some spoilery stuff. Again, spoiler. Now, the raid of the 13 heroes doesn't work out. I alluded to that because we only have 2 heroes. Now, after this raid, which seemingly happened like 1,000 years, you know, between those raids, it seems like this is not the first raid. There was a different raid. That one was 1,000 years ago, at least against Clevatess. And, you know, Clevatess a little bit taken aback by these new weapons that these heroes have, and seemingly can damage him or hurt him. So he goes out. Naturally he can understand the humans. I'm going to call them humans. They are like mixed races, but you know, the humans, because they told or said more or less along the lines that the king sent them. So he goes out. He also kills the king. He destroys more or less the capital, or like the palace at least. And then he finds like a dying woman, and that woman is like, take my baby, the whole shebang. He decides to take the baby, which not too uncharacteristic, because he is like, hey, I want to more or less go out and learn a little bit more about the humans. One of the questions he asked the king is, why do you attack us? Why are you going out of your way to attack us? Which, seemingly, there was 1,000 years where the demons or the monsters, they were just in the area. I don't know why humans would attack them now, out of, you know, because it doesn't seem like there's a big reason to. It doesn't seem like there's a defensive reason. It seems mostly, hey, we want to see what is going on out there. So, understandably, that Clevatess is like, hey, Why the fuck are you trying to kill me? The king is doing some bullshit. You wouldn't have no clue and gets killed. We get to the baby, yada yada yada. We now have the baby. Again, not too bad because he does want to understand somewhat. There's one part that is very strange. He decides like, oh, I want to, I'm going to destroy every human, so they don't try to kill me anymore and are not going to, go and essentially he's like, stop getting on my nerves. So to stop you being able to get on my nerves, I'm just going to kill you. The problem I have is that he's like, okay, I'm going to raise an army to kill humanity, even though he can just do it alone. Because, he did a very good job on the capital. He destroyed it in like a night. No one can harm him, essentially. But okay, we got the baby. We got the setup. All the heroes are dead. Apart from one, Alicia, he decided to revive because he now has this baby. And he's like, okay, this dying woman or man or whatever said, hey, the baby itself is going to prove that you should take the baby. Which, okay, sure. And Clevatess is like, essentially, Clevatess, it doesn't matter to him, really. He can waste 20 years. He's like Frieren in, that he's like, I don't know, immortal or whatever. He's just living forever. So those 20, 30 years it takes to raise a child doesn't really matter. So he decides, hey, I'm going to raise a child to see then if it can prove to me, hey, humans are not too bad. We should keep them around. And he is like, okay, gotta raise this child. Now he revives Alicia because he has no clue how to raise a child and tells Alicia, hey, Ko, you help me raise a child. Alicia naturally never had a child. It's like, I never raised a child. But Clevatess only wants the information, which Alicia is able to deliver. Now, seemingly, because he revived Alicia, he has control over her. The problem I have a little bit, Alicia is like, okay, if I had a weapon, I could fight him. However, seemingly I'm unable to defeat him. Understandable. However, she seemingly is giving out too much information, really, without being controlled. I would have liked, a little bit nitpicky, but I would have liked to, at the moment that she fell under his control, that she's more or less bound to give him information about everything that is, damaging to him or harmful to him. That would have been nice if something along those lines was, in place. Seemingly it is not. Because she finds out the child is royalty, she then tells him more or less everything he needs to know about the royalty, which is very strange. This is one of the parts I really don't like. I understand it's a story, we need to get to the juicy parts, so we have to skip a little bit, we get a lot of exposition, and we try to make this exposition somewhat fit. However, this part did not fit that well, because she's telling him, this is royalty, and he's like, okay, whatever, what do I care? And she's like, yeah, but this is royalty that is able to make the weapons that hurt you. Which is like, okay, why are you telling him that? That seems to be a little bit too much information to give out to the guy that, shouldn't have that information. That is why I would have liked there to be a mechanism in place that compels her to tell him, because this could essentially hurt him. Seemingly there's not. She tells him, a little bit meh, but sure. They then get, you know, they're on the way. They are on the way to get a wet nurse because Alicia cannot nurse the child. Now Clevatess can keep the child alive, but cannot feed the child. And on the way there, they get more or less kidnapped and they end up in like as slaves in a little slave town, I guess. Abandoned area where they keep their slaves for the moment until they sell them. And here we get some more information, some, you know, exposition. That exposition I liked because Alicia is getting brought to the, you know, boss, and the boss is like, you know, he's a little bit probing, and he's like, hey, you brought these crystals from this mountain, which is very interesting because a little while ago we sent a bunch of heroes to the mountain. That is a strange coincidence. The chef of the bandits is telling her, and he's also like, you seem pretty toned, a very toned body, you know. You seem, and you don't really seem very perturbed by the situation, you know, being a slave, being in chains and whatever, being in front of a bunch of guys, in front of even a monster. You don't really seem perturbed. It would be, you know, would be a coincidence if you were one of the heroes. Now, at this point, I'm like, where is he going with this? This is a little bit strange. Because it always had like a creepy atmosphere. Because she's a woman as a slave, you know. Now, what he's getting to though, which is interesting, that they, as bandits, sell slaves and imitation to the special weapons that heroes get. Which are more or less, you know, you can see them by the red glint that the weapons have instead of like a silver glint as a normal steel weapon had. And he's like, you know, you probably ran away, so you probably left your weapon behind. There are two ways to get these weapons: be a hero or get rid of a hero. So he's like, hey, I want you to show me where you left the weapon. And then the whole, because at this point this is mostly exposition or like along those lines, now it makes a lot more sense because he's like, hey, you seem like a hero, you normally have these weapons are very expensive, especially now that the royal family supposedly is dead and they are the only ones that can make the weapons. So now the weapons, or the price of the weapons, is going to skyrocket. So tell us where these weapons are. Where are the weapons of the other heroes that presumably are dead? So we can get the weapons back and get a bunch of money for those. So I did like that. Naturally, he then goes like, hey, you are going to show us tomorrow. Hey, you can, you know, he's telling his boys you can tire her out as long as she's able to show us the weapons, which is like, okay, a little bit, you know, especially because she's so important. We also get to find a wet nurse for the baby, which Clevatess, because Clevatess is mostly undercover, because his whole idea or point is, hey, he wants to put his baby onto the throne and control more or less all the humans from the shadows. Which is an interesting idea. It is very interesting to have like him more or less playing chess with his little baby child and against the other, you know, races. That is why it seems like this is mostly around the human races fighting each other and not really about Clevatess itself. It could also, you know, because he's going to control this human and make a kingdom around him, it feels like that it could end up in the other 3 demon kings, monster, whatever, that each of them also control another human kingdom. So it could be like these 4 that more or less all of these demon kings could end up playing chess with like humans, and they just play around with them. It feels like. Again, could be very interesting, especially the end of the episode of the second episode is that she, you know, has an opening. She is more or less killing one of the guards. She's falling down, and she's hoping that she is really immortal as Clevatess told her. So we see the ending part of her being mangled on the ground, which is like very gruesome. Again, a lot of gruesome details. Probably, you know, I'm yapping too much about, you know, the show again. But it has potential. It has potential if we get him, if Clevatess is putting the child into control of a kingdom and then more or less playing chess or checkers with those forces of the kingdom against the other kingdoms, and then potentially have the other demon kings take control of other kingdoms to fight each other. That could be really interesting. Could be really, really good show.